Margarita. Okay, everyone, welcome to the October 12th, 2022 Academic Senate meeting. I call this meeting to order. And let us begin with an approval, motion for the approval of the agenda.
Okay, I move to approve. Kim?
Right, is there a second? Okay, we cannot do anything until we have a second.
I second.
Thank you, Juan. Okay. All right. So we've approved all in favor of approving the agenda. I can go through, but is there anyone that objects to approving the agenda? Okay. Thanks, Brittany. All right. So that moves us to our vote to extend the emergency provision for online meetings. And so we need to make a motion for that.
Okay, move to extend the provision for meeting online.
I'll second it.
Thanks, Brittany. All right, so I will do a roll call vote on this one. Sabrina.
Yes.
Ellen?
Yes.
Ellen? Yep. Tara?
Yes.
Juan?
Yes.
Elizabeth?
Yes.
Jess? Jess, no Jess? Okay, Anna?
Yes.
Russell / Brittany?
Yes.
Dee?
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. Chris?
Aye.
Joy? Joy told me she might be late. Jen?
Yes.
Trisha?
Sorry, just got in. What are we saying yes or no to?
We are saying yes or no to whether or not we want to extend meeting online.
Oh, yes.
Yes, okay. Kim?
Yes.
Ruth?
Yes.
Kathy?
No.
Okay, and Ben?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so that passes. Thank you. All right. And that brings us to our Zoom meeting guide, or our Zoom meeting guidelines, which includes our public comments. So I have heard from Andy, who wants to give a comment, public comments. Is there anyone else who would like to give a public comment?
Melanie, I emailed you about that too. Guire.
Guire, right. Thank you, Guire.
I also am here with Ray and she would like to give a public comment.
Okay. Thank you, Anna. All right. And anyone else? Okay, so we will start with Andy, and then we will go to Guire, and then we will go to Ray and Anna.
Hi there, Andy Gill here, full-time counselor, academic faculty academic counselor here. I am currently serving as the part-time, filling in a couple hours here and there. I'm doing 10 to 12 hours a week currently with the Emoja program, and I ask that you consider this full-time position for the Emoja program, that they get their full-time counselor and they get what they need. I can honestly tell you, I was very moved in a very good way by all the public comments made last week. I support the Emoja program 100%, and I see the need, and I would love to see that program thrive and become what it needs to become. We really need to increase the representation and the academic success, and also let our Black and African American students know that we are here for them 100% in every way and capacity that we can serve them. And I thank you for this time. And yeah, happy to pass it on to the next person.
Thank you very much, Andy. All right, Guire, you're up.
Okay, thank you. All right, so I'd like to make my public comment today about the emotive position as well. I want to make it clear that not all of the full-time faculty in the Academic Counseling Center, and not just Andy and me, but not all of those faculty are objecting to the emotive position and the circumstances around it. I know that some HCC faculty might even be filing grievances against the Vice President of Student Affairs about it. I just want it to be very clear that I'm not one of them and I support the position. And frankly, I'm really surprised that some faculty in the Academic Counseling Center think they know best and that they are the experts on how to serve our Black and African American students. I believe we should listen to the coordinator of equity, diversity and inclusion. We should listen to our current Umoja counselor. We should listen to the Vice President of Student Affairs and the Umoja regional coordinator. So generally speaking too, I have witnessed a pattern in ACC of trying to maintain control over academic counseling on this campus and maintaining it in a centralized model versus a model in which counselors are embedded or dedicated to specific programs. There is clear research documenting the effectiveness of embedded counseling, especially with equity populations. Embedded counseling helps foster stronger relationships between counselors and students and between counselors and other faculty and staff. When counselors are embedded in programs or departments, that builds a stronger community for students and a greater sense of belonging. I truly believe that having an Umoja counselor coordinator will help build that strong community and sense of belonging. I also want to mention over the years, there have been examples of faculty in the Academic Counseling Center who actively worked to dismantle embedded counseling. And a prime example of that is the Express to Success program. That was a state award-winning program. And a big part of the strength of that program were two counselors who were embedded in it. And Andy was one of them. They worked hand in hand with English and math faculty to support students. Just a little history here. Back in 2019, when the Student Equity and Achievement Work Group held a vote on the new SEA budget, the Academic Counseling Center co-chairs at the time were on that work group and voted to dismantle ESP. My understanding is that some of the funding that had gone to ESP was then redirected to ACC's budget. After that, ACC did not offer that same high level of support to students in English and math like ESP had. Not even close. I wouldn't want something like this happening to Umoja. So again, I reiterate my support for the Umoja counselor coordinator position that does not report to the Academic Counseling Center, and I encourage you all to support it as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Guire. Ray, ready for you.
Hey, everyone. BC 214. It was in the calendar invite. That's how I caught it. Just for the record. And Anna Garcia next to me would also like to give public comment. So I know it's weird because I'm using her account, but I just wanted to mention it. Hi, everyone. Ray Napoleon, chemistry faculty. I am coming to give public comment today in my capacity as the faculty advisor for Black STEM, which is a chapter of the National Society for Black Engineers, which has been a club for a few years now. It was started a few years ago, and I always like to mention, because of his passing, that I started as the faculty advisor for the club, and my dear friend and many of your dear friend Adolfo Corral was the staff advisor, and we had a wildly successful initial year, and we took many of our Black students to Detroit for the national sorry, I'm tired, everyone. The national conference for NSBE, and the students found that experience life-changing in the truest of the sense. So I am here in that capacity. I have tried to stay out of all the things on campus, and I am a little concerned about the conversations that I am hearing and am privy to, and around this particular conversation about this Umoja position. And I'm concerned, similar to Andy, as somebody who interfaces with Umoja. I do not have the official capacity with Umoja as Andy does. However, as somebody who has been in that space, interacts with Alicia and also Roxanne, and last few years, not as much, but trying to organize events for our students. I am deeply concerned that there isn't the support behind this position that there should be. So obviously I'm overwhelmingly in support of this position as a faculty member, and I hope that the senators on this body supports this position when they go to rank. And I also want to speak to some of the things that I've been hearing. One of them being is that people are supportive for this position in terms of like concept, but that procedure and policy weren't followed to establish this position or come to the Senate with it. So first of all, a lot of procedure and policy was followed, and that's why you are all aware of the position, much like many of our colleagues. Roxanne and others came to this after having a presentation prepared and gave you the data and said why this position was needed. And so in a lot of ways it was followed. And perhaps in the inception or the original concept of this, maybe it wasn't. I actually don't know whether it was or it wasn't. I actually find whether it was or it wasn't completely inconsequential. We need this position for all of the really amazing reasons that Guire identified and Andy before me, so I won't reiterate those. And also, I just really want all of us to pause and use some of that professional development training that we got in anti-racism and breaking down white supremacy culture and think to ourselves, why is this the hill that we're choosing to die on? Why are we calling for procedure and policy now? If we are concerned about administrative encroachment or faculty not getting a say, and by the way, faculty still has a huge say in this, you're all going to rank, right? So it's not that faculty voice was removed from this conversation at all. But if we're going to talk about that, I have a whole long list left over from my days of academic senate president that we could talk about, and we can use those as the like, you know, points of contention where we really push back on faculty voice and faculty power and what is in 10+1 and what is not. So I think that is definitely a very important thing. I like to think
Jumping in on a time warning, Ray, it's been over 3 minutes.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Ray. Anna, I want to ask you, you're a senator. Do you want to wait until to be a
No,
senator?
I don't.
Okay, all
I'm,
right.
because it's a public comment on behalf of a group. So I'm reading an email that was sent to administration and that I would like to be included in the record for Senate. Dear Dr. Murillo, Paloma, and Maria, I am writing this email on behalf of EOPS academic counseling team, including Ruben Gill, Eli Villanueva, Ana Garcia, and myself, Camila Acosta, and my colleagues, Angela Warren, Renato Marquez. We would like to formally express our support for the new counselor coordinator position in the Umoja program. This position will fulfill the dire need of having a dedicated full-time faculty member to guide the Black students at SBCC to achieve their educational and personal goals. Unfortunately, the transfer and degree completion rates of this student population is the lowest among all of our student groups. This position is founded in equity principles that our college has embraced. This is walking the talk. As you know, many CCs have a similar position housed in their Umoja program, and it's critical to the success of Black students. We need to listen to the experts in the equity field and in Umoja who recommended that this position be housed under the Umoja program. As a team of academic counselors in EOPS and the University Transfer Center, we have worked tirelessly to support BIPOC students, and we continue to engage in professional development opportunities sponsored by SBCC to further our knowledge about white supremacy and racism. Below is a list of experiences that we have collectively participated in over the last 2.5 years. It goes on to list many trainings that have been attended. It is our impression that this group is unique as opposed to many of the academic counseling faculty in our commitment to being educated about DEI. Again, we urge our college community to support this position to be housed in the Umoja program. In community, Camila, Anna, Angela, Eli, Jenny, Erica, Renato, and Ruben. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Anna. All right, is there anyone else who would like to give public comment? Okay, not hearing anyone, we will then open this up for Senate discussion. I know that Sabrina would like to give a comment now.
Yes, thank you. I have prepared something to say just because I want to make sure that I am able to say everything that has been on our hearts and our minds, and mine and some of my other colleagues. I feel that this is one of the first opportunities that our voices being heard. There was a public comment that was made on 9/28 by Maria Morales. And that public comment is also was submitted to our VP of Student Services on Monday, the 26th. And it was also posted in the Senate Google document that was attached to item 5.4 of the October 5th Senate agenda. So if anyone wanted to read that, that is there. And so basically, in regards to our public statement or public comment, we believed the letter we wrote explained our support for the Umoja program, but did so in utilizing a different model. We hoped for a program that would flourish and not be restricted by the challenges of the 50% counselor and 50% coordinator combined positions, which many of us have experienced, including myself. Unfortunately, our department was made aware of the combined position on September 20th, which was the day that the full-time proposals were due. And we were not allowed the opportunity to collaborate with the administration to develop the best possible program for our students. Having a process in place is intended to allow us as faculty to give our expert opinion, and by violating the process, we were not able to give the input based on our decades of collective experience and knowledge counseling students at Santa Barbara City College. Our department is concerned over how our message was received by others who spoke during the public comment when we were advocating to secure a full-time counseling position for Umoja and to ensure that the college's policies and shared governance process are followed. Once again, we would like to restate our position so that there are no misunderstandings. So one, ACC fully supports an Umoja counseling position. In the very first paragraph of the letter, we state that the department recognizes and supports the need for a full-time coordinator position dedicated to overseeing the Umoja program on our campus, as well as the need for a full-time tenure track dedicated academic counselor to serve the needs of our student population in this program. Our reservations have nothing to do with the counseling position proposed by the Umoja consultants, but everything to do with the administration's decision to move forward with the counseling position request without consultation with any counseling faculty member, not just academic counseling, but any counseling faculty member. Based on the process the administration took and the administration's logic, they could propose any faculty position recommended by an external consultant without respecting our college's protocols and policies. Second, I want to stress that we support a full-time counseling position because this model promotes and allows for intrusive counseling, something that has proven to be very challenging when you have a counselor handle the responsibilities of coordinating a program. We have found from experience that having a combined 50% counselor and 50% coordinator position can be a disservice to the students in the program, especially in an equity-driven program, because it does not provide an adequate amount of counseling to fit the needs of the students. We would have loved to have had the opportunity to listen to the model being proposed, provide feedback, consult with other programs that currently have that model in place, and assess how that model integrates with the existing structure of the delivery of counseling services. Counseling wished to secure this position through the proper channels of communication and consultation stated in AP 7120, and that consultation would have happened with any counseling faculty. Counseling faculty need to be treated and supported in the same way as any other faculty department on this campus. How would the English or math or library departments react if a program on campus decided to hire an English or a math instructor or a librarian for that program without the English, math department, or library being involved or even consulted? We believe that since we are educational support faculty, this happened, and that the administration would not attempt to hire an English or math instructor or librarian without consulting with the department first. As a result of this incident, there have been insinuations by the administration of altering AP 7120 to remove our rights as faculty to participate in the consultative process in the future. Dr. Murillo has stated in an email to the Department Chair of Counseling that she believes the AP does not adequately address the needs of the non-instructional faculty. As non-instructional faculty members, we completely disagree with her statement. After hearing President Murillo's and VP Arnold's statements, we realized there was no intention of ever having the Umoja counselor be part of our team in academic counseling, despite us providing counseling hours since the start of Umoja, that it should not be buried in another department and that it will be a standalone learning community. However, we want to point out that this is a direct contradiction to the equity plan, which calls on the academic counselors and the academic counseling department every step of the way. It is stated in the plan that in order to transform from the current structure to the more ideal structure, the Umoja program needs to be developed working alongside the math, English, and academic counseling departments. Our proposal would have been following that plan exactly. According to an email that Dr. Murillo sent to the campus community on April 19th, 2022, with the subject line, "Things to Know and Ponder, Reflections on Moving Too Fast, Action, Accountability." She indicates, and I quote, "For 7 months, you, the college constituencies, have been telling me you want opportunities to be included and that you feel that there are the same people who do everything and have a voice," end quote. In addition, she says, "So while I am not afraid to make decisions, I believe we make better decisions when we look at all the perspectives and facts and acknowledge the concerns in the room," end of quote. She then goes on to say, "So what can we personally do? Hold ourselves accountable to ensure we are following board policies and procedures, creating an environment where people can speak up and most essentially be heard." We were inspired by these words. In closing, we support Umoja and our Black and African American students and colleagues. We always have, and we will continue to do that. We sincerely apologize if our letter led anyone to believe that we do not support the position or the Umoja program. That's not who we are as academic counselors. That's not why we got into this field. In fact, as we expressed in our letter, we want to see more support for the Umoja program, and we wish we could have had the opportunity to contribute and advocate for a full-time coordinator for Umoja and a full-time counselor.
Thank you, Sabrina. Okay, other thoughts from senators? And ideally, I would like us to be able to hear from a multiple viewpoints.
I guess I'm just trying to call a point of order here. I thought we were in public comment.
No, we had left public comment. I asked if there was any more public comment, and then we moved on to the discussion. We'll do the minutes before we move to 7.0.
I don't think that was clear, Melanie.
Yeah, it wasn't clear to me either. I was just going to ask the same thing. So
Yeah,
we're taking things out of order on the
I'll
agenda.
jump in as parliamentarian. Melanie did say that, and the agenda item describes the academic counseling centers raised procedural questions. So that's Sabrina presented that as this agenda item. So it's, maybe it would have helped to show the agenda. So I think that's like a thing that we could take, to like show, okay, here we are, we're moving. So I'm really sorry that got lost in the.
Well, we
vision.
approved the agenda as is, though, there was no movement to changing the order of the
Okay.
process.
Let me
Right.
So if
clarify
we're
here.
gonna
There was-
nitpick policies, then I think it needs to be nitpicked appropriately across the board.
Okay, let me just, say I made a mistake in not moving us to the minutes. However, I didn't move us to the minutes. And if you listen to the recording, you'll see that I clearly asked if there were any other public comments. And then I said, we're going to move to discussion with the senators. So that's on me.
What
But
you
it was-
actually said was Sabrina has a comment. That's what you.
And then
actually-
after that, I said Sabrina has a comment. So we're going to move forward. I appreciate and note your objections and your concerns. And we're going to move forward. And if there are any other perspectives, so what we had was the perspective from counseling. Is there anyone else that would like to speak from another perspective or who has another kind of comment? And Cornelia, I see your hand.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you,
My
Ellen.
hand is up for that too.
Yeah, go ahead, Ellen.
Oh, okay. So a couple things. First of all, I want to say thank you to everyone who made public comments in support of the Umoja position. I won't reiterate all of the points that were made, but I really appreciate Andy and Guire and Ray and Anna's points regarding that position. I also, a couple things I've heard some concerns a little bit more broadly than the ones that Sabrina just stated, but about in some correspondence related to this, the argument that it's unprecedented or unusual to have an ESD faculty member who's also coordinating or directing a program. And I just wanted to correct any misunderstandings people might have about that. It's actually historically most of the departments within ESD have had a faculty director or coordinator at some time. Many of them still do. So I think, that model, it's inaccurate to say that model is a rare one or has been a rare one at SBCC. I also just want to say that, yes, it's perhaps unfortunate that the expected channels for creating a position weren't followed, and that there were people who believe they have some expertise around this who perhaps should have been in that loop. And I can understand that frustration, but I also want to make it really clear, especially since the academic counseling letter, mentions the library and how, in saying how problematic it would be if someone were to, hire a librarian in another part of campus without our consultation. I'm sure that I would feel left out if that happened, and I'm sure some of that would be ego that I would need to examine. But I also want to say, so I before the pandemic, I went to the Umoja Summer Learning Institute. I went to one of the Umoja conferences. I was very involved in the program. I was on the advisory group for a year. I was the sort of unofficial Umoja librarian. I did several hours a week, 4 to 6 hours per week in the Umoja Center, where I offered help with research and whatever other kind of help that I could offer. And the Umoja program is very dear to me, and I will also take full responsibility for how the library, I think, has not done as good a job as we could have maintaining our connection with that program through the pandemic, and I hope we can remedy that. But I also want to say that if I found out that someone were proposing an Umoja librarian position, a full-time Umoja librarian position, I would celebrate that, regardless of my personal feelings of like, oh, maybe I'm left out, or maybe I had something to offer to that job description or whatever. I would welcome that. This is not about us. as faculty, this is about students. This is about what our students need. And I need to put my ego out of the way and allow the experts who are recommending this model, which is a model used elsewhere. It's not like we're inventing it. And even if we were, if it's recommended by the experts, like this is a model that makes sense. It sounds like part of what this is coming down to is some philosophical differences around how academic counseling should be done. And I'm not an academic counselor, so I'm not going to get in the middle of that debate. But it's clear that we have academic counselors on this campus who are on different sides of that debate. And again, I just think we need to come back to what serves students. If there are things that we need to do differently in terms of the process of how positions like this get proposed, then that's something we can do later. Like I think the worst thing that could be the outcome of this, two things. One is if the position doesn't get ranked highly, doesn't get filled, and we're not serving our Umoja students in a way that we could. I think another horrible outcome of this would be that if we don't stand behind this position and we don't support the person who ultimately gets hired for this position. So I think that's it, but I just, as a librarian, I just wanted to say, I hope I would welcome the creation of another librarian position on campus, even if I were not part of creating it. It's about the students.
Thank you very much, Ellen, for that. All right, we have Cornelia next, and then we have Dee.
I have a point of order question about that, because I thought only senators were allowed to speak.
She is a Senate liaison.
Yeah. And by the way, I thank you so much, Melanie. I'd be happy to have.
Not a senator, for the record. So this is against our rules. So we are just making exceptions left and right for whoever we feel like it.
Okay, I just want to clarify that I was very clear that we were wrapping up public comment, Sabrina, and then we were going to move to senator comment. I've already explained that I made a mistake. So we're going to move forward. I would like to also acknowledge that we've got Cornelia, who is our liaison. I think normally the Senate liaisons are allowed to speak at the Senate.
No, that has not been true.
That.
All right, I'm going to
I
go
would
to our,
say if this is going to be useful for the conversation, in light of the, what's best for the students and getting all the information, that we don't rest on, that we could be helpful to hear what Cornelia says.
Okay, well, I would just like it to go in the minutes that when others have tried to do this in the name of equity, they are silenced. So we are making an exception.
Other Senate liaisons have been silenced? Okay.
They have not been allowed to speak. So I'm just putting that out there. Go ahead and do what you want.
So
Cornelia.
good afternoon, senators. As I'm speaking here as the liaison, the faculty association liaison, and for clarification, let me say that I believe the document is now about 15 years old. There is a liaison agreement between the faculty association and the academic senate, and that specifically allows any senate liaison to the FA and any FA liaison to the academic senate to participate fully in all discussions. I'd be happy to provide that document. It's on the FA website. Ellen Carey was the and Anna was the Senate liaison to the faculty association, and for sure she had full rights to speak at the FA meetings, and we had, and also vice versa. So this is good practice, and it is documented in a signed document. I'd be happy to provide it after the meeting. So thank you very much for letting me speak. I would like to speak to the concerns about AP 7120, about problematic actions by our administration and the disregard of faculty rights. And I also want to express the FA's strong and unwavering support of Umoja and our Black students. Please know, we are committed to resolving this issue in a way that serves students in the best manner possible. Here's some background. One of the duties of the SPCC Faculty Association is to protect faculty rights and to ensure that the FA contract and also college procedures and policies are followed by our administration. There is no doubt that AP 7120 as well as AP 7220 were violated by the administration in the submission of a proposal for a counselor coordinator position in the current faculty ranking process. The administration did not follow the directive of our AP, which requires that the determination of need for a faculty position is a consultative process, which always includes faculty in the department or in the area of this position. There was no consultation, none. And let's be very clear, this complete absence of consultation with faculty was not only a violation of an AP. This was a violation of fundamental faculty rights under 10+1. This is unacceptable and cannot be repeated. But mistakes happen to anyone, including our very respected top executive administrators. So when concerned faculty in the counseling department first learned about this violation, they reached out to our administration multiple times. Even the academic senate president tried to facilitate and asked if our executives would contact the faculty directly to resolve the issue. Unfortunately, this did not happen. Instead, directions were given to our newest interim dean to write an email. Next, a Zoom meeting was scheduled that I attended as the FA representative. However, none of our executives were there to talk to us. But text messages were exchanged with the meeting chair while we met. Not one phone call was made to the concerned faculty. There was not even an offer for a phone call. Instead, emails were sent. And the initial message was pretty much that our administration felt that they did not have to consult with faculty in this matter. In later statements, the lack of consultation was finally acknowledged to an extent, but the administration maintains to this day that no policy violation occurred. And the one remedy they suggested was to change the AP. I understand our executives are citing past practice and that 4 and 5 years ago, similar violations went undetected. That is the justification for the complete absence of consultation? No, this disregard for and disrespect of faculty and faculty rights is a major problem. This has to concern all of us. The FA is also very concerned that there was a detailed Umoja report from an external consultant last spring, which has been withheld by the administration. It was not brought to the academic senate, and as far as we know, not to the faculty in general. This 15-page PowerPoint report prepared by consultant Rashida Dean in the spring was only released to faculty after it was formally requested by the Faculty Association on October 4th. I do not know why this report was not given to faculty, but I do know it did not even come to the faculty in the Student Equity Committee. That means not even the authors of the Student Equity Plan, that very plan that you have on your Senate agenda, even they did not see it. Again, this report was generated in spring, but the administration decided to not share it. Only late in September, they told us about the one line item that they liked. I heard Sabrina earlier saying that her faculty group feels that the administration is shortchanging Umoja with that. This is exactly why and where faculty consultation should have happened. But again, it didn't. As I stated at the beginning, the Faculty Association is in strong support of our Umoja program and our Black students. They need us and they need our support. We heard our colleagues from the Black Faculty Staff and Staff Association speak last week, and they are right. The FA believes that not even the worst administrative mess up should hinder or slow down our support and our dedication as faculty to our Black students. We therefore want to encourage the Academic Senate to support Umoja, regardless of these very problematic actions by our administration, because it is the right thing to do. On the other hand, We also encourage the Academic Senate to let administration know that ignoring and disrespecting faculty and faculty rights is never acceptable. Thank you, Senators, for listening. Thank you for supporting Umoja and our Black students, and thank you for upholding faculty rights at this college.
Thank you, Cornelia. We're about to go to D, then we have Tricia. I just want to remind us that on the agenda at 4 o'clock, we're going to move to the next item since we need to train faculty senators on the ranking process, right? So that's D and Tricia next.
Okay, hello, everyone. It's not customary that I speak a lot when or being as a senator on Academic Senate these past several years, but I couldn't go without speaking my truth as a faculty member and as an Umoja-fied mentor of students on campus and a tenured faculty member. I'm so disappointed in what I've been hearing and what I've been seeing with regard to putting before the needs of our Black students on campus that consultation wasn't being met and, you know, we weren't aware of until the day of. I'm here for the support of the Black students on this campus, which we all have seen in years and years before I even got here at SBCC, that they've been slighted academically. And I want to, before I move forward, thank those who stepped up and gave a public comment last week and today in support of the counselor coordinator position. And I come to you as a Umoja-fied faculty member who was one of the first cohort to be trained in the Umoja principles back in 2016 when it first came to the campus of SBCC. And I say that because from what I heard from Senator Barajas, that there was a space in there where she mentioned that they wanted to understand what Umoja meant so that they can participate and understand what the, you know, the needs were that the counselor would have to meet for those students. It's not something that you can be given a PowerPoint on. It's not something where you can sit through for 2 hours and be told about or read about. This is something that you take 3 to 4 days of intense reflection and training. So it will be impossible for that to be done. And if you want the whole Academic Counseling Center to go to an Umoja conference and spend 5 days to do that, then so be it and do it, because that's what you would have to do in order to understand what it is that it takes to be a part of the Umoja program. Okay. Number 2, I'm a faculty mentor. And I understand that we've been talking about how, of course, you know, you see the Black students that have not been, you know, successful in academia. And I see that firsthand. You want to know why? Because I see countless students of color and Black students who come to my office who are not an ECE major, but are coming in as first-time freshmen, sophomores, or first year, second year, who go to academic counseling, who does not get their needs met. And I'm sitting there doing your job, going through all of the classes and providing them counseling on classes that they should be having and taking this semester and the spring semester. And I'm tired of it. I have documented numbers of students. I was so mad this semester where I had a student come to me from the Friday before classes. A counselor had given him a schedule of classes that aren't even offered for the fall semester. How could that be? Because you don't care. And I'm saying this from my heart and from my experience, and I'm tired of it. And we want to speak about, oh, we weren't consulted. Oh, we weren't told this. But the underlying and what we're here for is to make sure that the students that look like me get the resources and the attention that is afforded to all the other students that don't look like them. Last point, and I heard this mentioned twice, that you would have liked to have been included, and because of that, you would like to have been able to hire a full-time Black counselor or a person of color or a coordinator for the position. Am I hearing that because you weren't consulted, you won't pursue this in the future? Please clarify that, because that's what I'm hearing. I'm going to leave it at that.
Thank you very much, Dee. Right. I will come back to counseling for a response on that later. Right now, we have Trisha and then Ruth.
Well,
Trisha,
I mean, if counseling would like to respond, because I don't want to dilute it. I have questions mainly. So I'm okay if someone takes my spot, if they want to kind of address that. Or no?
To
okay.
clarify, we're in support of a full-time counselor and a full-time coordinator now and whenever that's possible. If the full-time counselor was included in academic counseling's proposal, it would have been included in the general student fund, which would allow for it to have been institutionalized instead of using categorical funds. And then the categorical funds that were secured could then be used to pay for a full-time coordinator.
Okay, what I'm saying, for point of clarity, what I'm saying is, aside from the Umoja program, I should have made that more clear. Because I've heard that, are you not going to try and pursue to hire a counselor that looks like the Black students who are not a part of the Umoja program? Because we have more than, we have more students on campus that may not even know about the Umoja program, and they're just regular student athletes. Because I don't see a Black counselor in ACC at all. And I've been told that you haven't ever been one. And this is 2022.
Correct, we don't have.
Okay, well then that's a problem that needs to be pretty much rectified.
Yes, we completely agree with that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Thank you for the question, Dee. Trisha.
Well, yeah, actually, so my question is that I want to make sure I understand. So when I'm making my decision, is that on the one hand, there's a counselor that is being proposed to hire, that attention is going to be divided between counseling and Umoja, right? So 50-50. And that I think what I understood Sabrina saying is they would have preferred to have a full-time Umoja counselor and a full-time academic counselor. Did I understand that correctly, Sabrina?
No, so
Okay.
it's one position and it would be a split coordinator, split counselor for the Umoja program. And so what we were wanting for the Umoja students was a full-time dedicated Umoja coordinator and a full-time dedicated Umoja counselor for the Umoja program.
Okay, yeah, so I'm sorry, I used the wrong term, coordinators and counselors. So by filling, if say like this position gets ranked high and it gets filled, does that potentially slow down or somehow hinder the process of getting full-time support, more full-time support in the Umoja program potentially, because they say, oh, we've already filled it, so they're less likely to pursue, say, 2 positions? Or would there be, would that have no effect? I just don't want, I don't want to, I don't know if that made sense. Does that
Trisha,
make sense?
I'm going to leap in here.
Okay,
See if I can
sorry.
clarify this. No, that's fine. That's a good question. And Roxanne, you're here. So if I get this wrong, maybe you can leap in. The best practice for Umoja is this hybrid counselor coordinator position. And we signed an MOU with Umoja. It's a big deal to be able to have an Umoja program. And part of the requirement is this hybrid counselor position, which is felt to be very successful within Umoja. Right? So that is a whole separate position. academic counseling is asking for 2 positions of their own. And I'm
Okay,
gonna
yeah,
go-
thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to be sure. I wasn't, I mean, aside from the process, which I think is important, I'm just thinking what's best for the students. And I just want to be sure that if this position is approved, it is best for the students and it's not gonna, affect the ability later. So thank you for clarifying that.
Okay, good. All right, and I'm,
Melanie, can I clarify as well? This is Roxanne.
yes, perfect. I was just looking
Yeah.
for it. Thank you.
Yeah, so you're correct. In our MOU, Emoja says that our coordinators should be a faculty member. Many institutions have co-coordinators that work together. So I also want to clarify that Emoja currently has a full-time student program advisor. And what we are looking for now is a full-time counselor coordinator. Those 2 individuals will co-coordinate the program together. With different coordinating responsibilities.
Thank you, Roxanne, for clarifying that. Okay, we have Ruth and Kim, and then I'm looking at the clock. We have 9 more minutes. So we'll go to Ruth.
So about those 9 minutes, Melanie, this is an artificially imposed timeline, right? That the sense of urgency is really showing your true colors, right? So this happened last time, bottle it at the end of the meeting. We don't have time for it. We got to go home. And then now it's occurring again. So I'm really going to ask you to assess and ask yourself, what do I, as a person, not just as the leader of this body, but especially as a leader of this body, what do I value and what should I be conveying here? All right. And then Kim, same thing with you for the timer, right? So shutting certain people down versus other people down with a 3-minute timer. Let's be consistent with that at least, okay? So this request should have come to the full Senate body first. Steering should have put it before the Senate from the get-go, regardless of the lack of clarity in the AP. And instead of refusing to engage, and this is not about steering, filing grievances or circumventing dialogue, we should have had everyone here come together to decide on how to best move this forward. I ask that we slow this down, so I do appreciate that steering met immediately and set up another meeting. But I do want to remind everyone that in terms of the timeline, since that was invoked last time in AP 7120, that deadline for the timeline to get to this point is set by our CIO, which is Dr. Villagomez, in consultation with our academic senate president. So yet again, more thought and consideration should have been put into this. And so the steering of this body, folks, we shouldn't be rushing things through, right? We should be thinking these things through. We should not be yes folks for this administration, right? I ask for thoughtful consideration. Always asking yourself, how do we best move this forward? Does this need more airtime? Should this be something that comes to the full Senate? And unfortunately, maybe it's because of lack of experience, but you do have a few people on there who have already served on Senate. In fact, we even have a former Senate president on this body. So always, again, especially when it comes to our most marginalized students, asking ourselves, should we slow this down? How do we get more input? How do we best move forward? And in terms of the administration, I'm going to ask that you be, and I know they're trying to be considerate of the need for this body to deliberate, not try to push things, move things forward by decree. I'm not saying they did this by decree, but I also think that perhaps because of the lack of experience or I don't know, ignorance, maybe giving them some guidance, because I know Dr. Murillo certainly knows that she wants to move this forward and she's in support of this position. So recognizing that the steering body may need some guidance, I'm going to ask that perhaps EVP or Dr. Villagomez, say, hey, maybe this is something you should think about steering. Okay? I do appreciate Dr. Murillo's vision and her advocacy for the needs of our Black and African-American students. She's right, the need is there. And I'm also going to remind this particular body, our voting senators, that regardless of how we rank, I do not see Dr. Murillo not funding this. So it would be a shame if it's the administration that actually has to pull this position from down, deep in the ranks there. I recognize that Dr. Villagomez is getting accustomed to her role here at SBCC and to our culture. And it saddens me that she already has to devote her limited energy to something that could have been avoided. But if there's any good that comes from this, other than hopefully this position being funded, which is of course enormous, is that she definitely knows now how seriously we are about shared governance here. That said, some folks in administration should have known better. And counselors, folks, I get it. It's a turf war, right? I get it. And I get it. Your division has a ton of issues and you need proper visionary guidance and you need a good leader in that position. I'm sorry that this hasn't happened for years and years and years. And there's lots of drama in that department. But folks, we need to get behind this, right? We need to recognize the substance of this request and prioritize the needs of our students, the students that are going to be served by this position. If and when this position is filled, I ask that everyone here, especially our counselors, engage in an earnest commitment to the success of whoever fills this position, because it's a shame that this position is already, whoever fills this position is already walking into a very toxic space. Right? So we're gonna have to rally behind this person. Again, my assumption is that this goes through here. So I have this concern that we're bringing someone into an inherently toxic environment because of the very nature of how all of this went down. We as a whole need to rally behind Umoja and commit to what we as a college claim to actually value.
Okay, thank you, Ruth. I'm just going to clarify a few things here. First of all, I think there's an assumption about what I believe. It's not particularly important what I believe. My goal, the job of the Senate president is to move the agenda forward. We created this as a meeting in response to the concerns of counseling. The goal is to hear today from many different perspectives. We also need to be able to train the senators on how to do the Wopap method. That probably won't take that long. Tara has a presentation ready to go for that. But I also do think that, if we want to respect each other, and you're assuming that I'm ignorant. You don't know that I was an academic senate president at a university. You don't know that I've been on the Senate before. So I really ask for everyone to be respectful and ask questions rather than castigate. Okay, so where we're going to go next is Kim, then Tara, then Jess.
I want to, this is tough for everybody. I don't want to take too much time. I'm thinking about our community values, and I just have to say that I do feel really attacked by these claims that we're, not handling things well. Kathy and I are both former Senate presidents. Times are harder now. I mean, we're all really stressed from the pandemic. I don't agree with our FA president, the faculty aren't being consulted. I believe this ranking process is our consultation. And I hear voices loud and clear here in the public comment and all over campus that there is enormous support for this position. So we will be ranking it next week as long as we get trained for it. And I'm confident it will be, at the top or close to it. We are being consulted as faculty. I do understand the Senate, the academic counseling has issues that they want to explore. I think it was a mistake to tie to this position because it plugs into systemic racism and the ways in which institutions and policies are always often enforced against the most marginalized and vulnerable. So I am truly sorry that there has been hurt, that the faculty and staff and people who spoke at public comment. I am grateful for their expressing their truth and their right. And there's been unintentional harm. It doesn't matter if it's intentional or not, it has been harm. But I do believe this campus is truly excited about this, and this body has this chance to show that with our ranking, which again will be trained for soon. So Melanie, it's up to, as we plan, I think we could maybe say, give 5 or 10 more minutes now, get through our training as fast as we can and come back. I'm going to take one personal moment. I'm still processing the biofeedback of feeling so attacked about the timing. In public comment, I just looked at the clock. People usually time themselves. It went into 4 minutes. I was letting Ray know. I should have said, take another 30 seconds. I just didn't do it that well. It's hard in Zoom, but it wasn't targeted. That all the public comment, was within the 3 minutes watching the computer. And I feel, I just want that in the record too, that the public comment was all at 3 minutes, around 3 minutes, Ray's went long enough that I raised it. I didn't mean her to stop that second, and I'm sorry. Everything is harder in Zoom. So am I done? I've made the point about I don't believe the policy's violated. I think we are consulting as faculty. And I just want to reiterate the rules versus the heart, right? So we are struggling, but I feel that this body has heard from the people who spoke, and especially I want to thank Dee Dee. It's so great you're on the Senate, so you had more time to tell us all of this. It's so important, and I thank you for that. And I'm sorry for the hurt that this process has caused.
Thank you, Kim. Okay, Tara, then Jess.
Hi, so I just want to acknowledge that I am hearing the comments about how we, as I am part of steering and the Senate, could handle things better. And I want folks to know that I am listening, I am hearing. I am going to be in support of Anna's comment about letting Cornelia speak at the moment that she spoke. We do invite liaisons to speak during Senate, but given her position and her role in this particular issue, it would have been more suitable as a public comment, right? And so I want to acknowledge that we can be a little bit clearer, maybe a lot clearer about our processes here at the Senate. If we need to agendize this, let's do it. Let's make it really clear so we're all playing by the same set of expectations. I am troubled. And I'm troubled by a lot of this conversation. I'm hearing a lot of weaponizing of procedure for when it's convenient. I'm hearing a lot of weaponizing of equity for when it's convenient. I am flabbergasted that we're really having this conversation over a position that is so incredibly critical, needed at our campus, one that requires a substantially specialized set of skills to do. So I'm acknowledging those two fronts, that we need to make our expectations of how Senate is run clear. We need to be clear about when folks who aren't senators can speak during a discussion. We need to be clear for when we can invite folks to use public comment, because that's the purpose of public comment. And again, I'm going to just put it in here in the minutes that I am just flabbergasted by this conversation.
Thank you, Tara. Jess.
Hi, yeah. So I was in a long line of people, and more or less, there's a lot that's been said that I can't necessarily address, or yeah, it's been a lot. I definitely don't like the vibe of the meeting. I feel like we can be more respectful of each other and actually like follow the values that we more or less adopted. I mean, it's already been said, but it's uncomfortable and kind of upsetting. I think we're all here in the best interest, or I assume we're all here for the students and in the best interest of the faculty, and also, yeah, definitely the students. But so I do have questions though, and unfortunately, I've really only heard from like people who are for this position, and I think I'm glad Trisha asked those questions about like clarification from those who oppose it, because I like looking at this, I'm like, yeah, 1000%, let's support this. Like, there's no question about it. But like I don't want to say like the scientist, the other side of that, I don't understand, and I want to understand it, because maybe I definitely don't understand the whole story. Like there's a lot here that I don't understand, like the categorical funding. It says that in the proposal that it's submitted, and the Foundation for SBCC will be funding this position, and I don't know how that can affect the person who's hired in the end. Like it was already stated that if we don't put this forward, administration might just push it through anyway. And since it's funded by the foundation, does that actually mean that they do need to go through us? again, I'm just saying this because I don't know everything. I don't know very much about this policy and procedure, so I'm trying to learn. And in addition to being funded by the foundation, it sounded like Sabrina was saying that those categorical funds could be used maybe differently, and then we can fund this position from somewhere else, like perhaps the normal way. But then it also sounds like Umoja, that MOU requires us to have it this way. So it's just, I just want to understand or better understand the opposition, because it sounds like we're just in an echo chamber, in my opinion. Like we're all supporting this, and I don't want to know if we're wrong. I don't want to know who agrees with me right now. In addition, I wanted to say also, like, since it sounds like the concern is the amount of support that this position can give. So the 50% coordinator counseling proposal. So can this be can a reassignment be established after this person already takes his position? Like, can this be a temporary solution? Like one person gets hired, and then can we hire another person later to fill in that other 50%? Are we not allowed to do that? Because it sounds like that might appease the opposition counseling's concern. I feel like I just asked a lot of questions, and like I don't know who can answer or is willing to answer, but I just want to say that like I don't want to tell people not to speak, but like I think we, like, a lot of us support it, and I want to know why we should not support it. Sorry, I probably wasn't clear in the beginning, but hopefully you get the main idea.
You were clear. Thanks, Jess. Roxanne, are you here? Would you like to explain or answer any of those questions?
I think just one point that I want to clarify is this idea that there's a 50% position, and that's not accurate. This is an academic counselor who is also a coordinator of the program, or as I said before, potentially a co-coordinator with the other staff in the program. So this is a full-time academic counselor position that would reside inside of Umoja, reporting directly to a dean, that also holds coordination responsibilities. And again, this is much like many of our peer colleges across the state and across our region who have Umoja programs. So there are counselors who serve also in the coordinator capacity. So it's not a 50-50 kind of split situation. And then, as I mentioned before, there is another full-time classified staff member in Umoja as well. Does that help clarify at all?
So if I guess because there was evidence that this type of position is the best fit for Umoja.
Yes.
Is there evidence that says that a person that's solely the coordinator and person that's solely the counselor is not the best fit, or has that not been looked into, I guess?
The information that we have received shows why this model is the best model for Umoja, and we just received another RP report, a report from the RP group about Umoja that also signifies that this is the best model for the program, which I can try to link and share with you all. I don't know that there's information that says the other model is not the best or better. But what we do know is that the counselor coordinator is the kind of preferred model for Umoja programs and other learning community programs as well.
And if we need further support later, we can submit another proposal to hire that individual as well, right?
What do you mean?
It sounded like a concern was, even if it's not 50-50 split, like the coordinator counseling position, it sounds like just splitting up tasks is taking away from something. If you're not 100% committed to counseling, then they're not getting the best counseling, right? That's what it sounded like to me. I'm not sure if that's what it was meant, but even if it's 25%, 75%, then it's not 100%, right? So if we find later that we want another person in there, we can do that, right? Like hire a third person.
We could certainly always grow the program with additional academic counselors. So again, like some of our sister colleges have a counselor coordinator or a counselor director in the lead and have multiple other academic counselors as well as other program classified staff in their program. So it could grow. Our concern is that if this position does not make it in rank this time, that we would potentially have to wait another 2 years in order to serve our students adequately, because this process, as you all know, you're voting now for a hiring next year. So if we didn't make it through this time, we would have to wait essentially 2 years in order to have an Umoja counselor. And that is not something that we're, wanting to do at all. And we currently have Andy Gill, who's about 10 to 12 hours release time in Umoja, but has no coordination responsibilities per our agreement with ACC. When we initially asked to have reassigned time for Andy, we initially did ask for some coordination responsibilities to be included in that, and we were denied.
Okay, Jess, are your questions answered?
I mean, yeah, I guess I still wanted to hear from those who opposed it, right? So I'm not sure if we really have time, but I think that would be nice. I'm not trying to shut Ellen or Juan down, but that's, yeah.
No, I think best practices using Robert's Rules of Order is that all the members speak before someone else returns. So that's what we're using. So I'm going to come back to Sabrina. Would you like to respond to Jess's question?
Yeah, and I just want to clarify that we're not opposing it. That the model that we are recommending is a model that was actually recommended in the PowerPoint presentation. There were 2 models that were recommended. One was to have a dedicated coordinator and to also have a dedicated counselor at 50 to 100%. That was option 1. And then option 2 was to have a coordinator / counselor. And we were made aware of those 2 recommendations after the fact. And in speaking with colleagues that I have that work at other California community colleges, El Camino College, Mount Sac College, where there are Umoja programs there, and they're really big Umoja programs there as well. And you can probably, like Roxanne said, there isn't, I don't want to not say, misrepresent her words, but there are different models for the programs. There are models where they have a counselor / coordinator, and there are models where they have a full-time dedicated coordinator and a full-time dedicated counselor. It has been our experience on this campus in programs that have an academic counselor that has to split the responsibility for coordination, that as the program grows, your responsibilities for coordinating the program and doing all the programmatic things that are involved with that tends to increase. At the same time, where the need for counseling increases as well, and it's really hard to manage that. I have done that myself in the STEM transfer program. I was hired as a full-time counselor for the STEM transfer program when we had that HSI grant. And it was really hard trying to manage going out there and doing all the programmatic things that were involved with running this program and recruiting students and going to the high schools and being in meetings and being involved in committees and just making sure that the day-to-day operations of the program are in place, hiring staff, supervising staff, hiring tutors, making sure that you have supervision all the time of the center that you are running. And then also finding time to actually meet with students and to provide the counseling that they need. It's challenging. At that time, I had, I think, maybe 200 students. And unfortunately, I didn't get to meet with every single student that was in the STEM transfer program because my time was taken away doing other things. And that's just one example that personally I've had, but there are other counselors in academic counseling that have had similar experiences with other programs of the coordinator / counselor model. So that was our concern, that if we want to grow this program, if we want it to, really increase, that at some point, this model might not be the best model, because you're not going to be able to devote the amount of time that you need to counseling these students. And usually what happens, from what I've heard with all of my other colleagues who work at other colleges with the Umoja programs, one of them is the dean of counseling that oversees the Umoja program, that they end up having to hire adjunct counselors to see the students. And we all know that there isn't a whole lot of stability when you have an adjunct counselor in a specialized program like this, because they can leave at any point. There's no guarantee that they will be there from one semester to the next. So at some point, if the program really does grow and the coordinator doesn't have the ability to meet with all the students the way we would like for them, the way that the students need to be met with, we're going to have to hire a part-time counselor in order to meet all of those students' needs. And then it doesn't provide the counseling that was, originally planned in this model of the coordinator / counselor.
Okay, thank you, Sabrina. All right, let's move. We have 3 hands up. We'll go to Juan, Ellen, and Anna. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go and learn about the Wopap method, which is the key thing that we need to do, as well as discuss when we want to hear the dean's rankings. We make those 2 decisions, ask for questions on the other things, and then if we have time, we will come back to this. Okay.
Following on the order, I think Ellen's hand was first up, so I'll let Ellen go first.
Well, we're gonna go with you first, because what we're
Okay.
doing is we're trying to hear as many voices as we can.
Got
right,
you.
and we've got
I
Ellen,
just wanted
and
to
we've got-
respect Ellen's hand going up first.
Thank you, Juan.
Yeah, I'm just, gonna go through my, I guess, simplistic but thought process after hearing all these viewpoints. Basically, it's a dichotomy. Do we need the position? Yes or no? Yes, based on student needs and also the best practices for our students coming out of Umoja. They're basically, screaming, we need help. We need this. Out of students, yes, it's being supported by instructors and counselors and administration at different levels, but students are saying, we need this position. So do we need it? Yes. Was procedure violated? Yes. Both of them are yes. So which one is going to take precedent? Students, simple as that. And that's the way I see it. And that's the way I'm going to support it. Simplistic, but there you have it from me.
Thank you, Juan. Ellen.
Thanks. The first thing I wanted to say is I just wanted to reiterate what Dee said about how Umoja is not something you can just learn from a PowerPoint or in a one-day training or something. It's having been Umojified, which means you've gone through the Summer Learning Institute, which is all day and evening immersed in Umoja principles and learning, doing both practical work with your team from your college as well as learning these principles. It's a profoundly moving experience. It was for me. It's learning new ways to think about student success for me. So I just wanted to reiterate that. I think it is something that you need to experience it. You can't, read about it or, look at a PowerPoint. And that brings me to some of my other concerns about this, including a couple of people mentioned our community values, and I have a bit of a different take on those. I look at our community values and I see maybe different ways we're failing them in terms of wanting comfort, taking things personally, stuff like that. Our community values tell us that we need to be willing to be uncomfortable in the work at the table. We need to be willing to disagree with each other. We need to not take that personally if someone speaks to the harm that we caused and it wasn't intentional. We still need to take that in without taking it personally. I know that's our work for me as a white person, for those of us in the room who are white, and really for all of us who are trying to engage in the project of anti-racism, we need to be, if we are not uncomfortable, we are not going to be making change. It is an uncomfortable process, facing ourselves and facing the ways that we have contributed to upholding white supremacist structures and systems. And so I have real concerns when we start getting into arguments about that to me amount to arguments for civility and tone policing, which I think in themselves are examples of trying to reinforce white supremacist structures. And so I wanted to also speak to something I think Cornelia said about how there have been positions that have come about in this way before and sort of gone unnoticed. I think we need to ask ourselves, why is this one the one that is causing so much controversy and being noticed in such a way? And how is anti-Blackness part of the answer to that question? How is all of our, oh, but no, of course I support Umoja, but all of these things about process, like we keep saying we're separating those two things, but I see us conflating them. And I think we need to ask ourselves how, like, we need to look at Temo Otun's white supremacy, I forget what it's called, white supremacy characteristics, and see how are we actually upholding this. And before anyone, takes it personally that I'm calling us racist or something, well, one, I think we're all racist. We live in a racist society. We are all racist and grappling with it and trying to become more anti-racist. But also, this is not about where we each are individually in our process of that work. This is about our trying to dismantle structural racism at this institution, structural barriers, and grappling with what happens when we're trying to do that, but maybe also enforcing them too, and all of that. So I guess I'm just calling on us to really look at, why is this conversation different from when there have been similar positions like this in the past? Why is our objection to it taking the shape it is now, and how is anti-Blackness part of that?
Thank you, Ellen. Anna?
Yeah, I also had a point of clarification, because it was my understanding that the Academic Counseling Center did request that this position be pulled. So was that not true? And I guess this question's for Sabrina.
Yes, and we requested that it be pulled and that it be reclassified into a full-time academic counselor position and a full-time coordinator position.
So you did request for this position to be pulled?
So that it could be reclassified into a full-time academic counselor position, then would go through the proper channels through Senate, and then a full-time coordinator position. And I'm not sure what those proper channels are, but that they would go through those proper channels.
Okay, so I just wanted to make sure that this was clear on the record. And I also want to amplify the idea of anti-Blackness that is present in this conversation. I also want to name that there are academic counselors that are outside of Academic Counseling Center, and that is a normal practice on many campuses, and that this feels like a power hoarding move from academic counseling.
I just want a point of clarification. I thought academic counseling then said that, I heard that you still supported the position. So what is on the record for that?
That's correct. We do still support this position.
Okay. So Jess, I'm assuming that's a residual hand that you have up.
Oh, it was, but I will say that I agree with Ellen. And when I said that our values weren't being followed, yeah, I can agree with her, but also say that they aren't being followed in another way, I guess. So like, yeah, we should be uncomfortable, but we can do it in a respectful manner, I think. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. All right, so we are now going to move from this. We are going to go over to the second part of the discussion and possible action, which is 7.02, which is the training and discussion of ranking procedures. And let's see, where would you guys like to start? Do you want to start with the Wopap method and then we move to make our decision about when we hear the dean's rankings? Or would you like to go in the other direction? What are you up for? Technically, the first thing that we should have is the discussion of the dean's position, but you might just like to learn something first.
We could also share the agenda and just go down what's listed there.
And we'll do that. All
We'll do
right.
that to share the screen.
Can someone else share the screen? My Zoom is for whatever reason not allowing me to share the screen. So Margarita, if you can let Kim share, can you do that, Kim? Or Margarita, do you have the agenda up?
Yeah, it says host is disabled, so I don't know if Margarita has that, or if who has the host option to go down to share screen and select that anybody can share.
Let's see. I do not have that ability. All right, so let's individually look at our agendas. Sorry about that, everyone. Let's look at our agendas. You'll see the first thing is if there are any questions about, so we're on 7.02, training and discussion of ranking procedures.
Melanie, can Margarita make me a co-host so I can just share my screen?
That would be great, but I don't, Margarita, are you here? Can you?
Yes, I'm here. So I see on here the way that I had it set through settings, multiple participants can share simultaneously.
Yeah,
Or
well,
in
we
the
can't.
advanced, I can do all participants or multiple participants. Dual monitor is recommended. So which one would you like? The all participants?
Whatever allows us to share screens.
It's usually
Okay.
multiple participants, I think.
Okay, let's try that. Okay, here. Did that change anything?
Yeah.
Okay, I can share my screen.
Yep.
Perfect.
All right, folks, so here you can see the agenda, and I think it makes the most logical sense to either tackle these resources along with the Wopap method and treat our decision about when we want to see the dean's ranking. So can we decide if we want to see the dean's ranking first before I just go over the resources and the Wopap?
And
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do the dean thing first, and then we can go to Wopat. I propose, if I need to propose it.
okay, so it's this is a discussion, possible action, so we can just talk about this. Let me just say that in AP 7120, under faculty, section E says input from area deans and the chief instructional officer is presented to the academic senate during the senate ranking process. So we'll just start with where the AP is. Thoughts, questions?
So that sounds pretty vague, like it's anytime during the process. And I mean, if I understand what we're deciding now is that we're ranking everybody, and we will all have done the ranking probably individually before we come next Wednesday. And then during the meeting, we're going to be combining our rankings. And then what we're deciding is, before we are combining our rankings, do we want to hear what the deans chose before we do it, or do we want to just hear what they said after? So, right, that's what we're deciding?
Exactly right.
Okay. And it sounds like the AP kind of is vague and it could go either way.
Yeah, it just says
Process,
during
okay.
the Senate ranking process.
Okay. So are there reasons why we would want to hear the dean's process first, before the Senate ranks things? Does anyone have a Does that make sense? Like, what were the reasons why we'd want to hear it first?
Ruth.
Is my tone okay?
Yeah, perfect.
Jess, you okay?
We can hear you fine, Ruth.
Good. I
Not
think
sure that
it
was
should be
necessary, though.
beforehand. I would have said it in person either way. So I think we should hear it beforehand because it's information that could shed light on something we may not have in purview to, we may not have considered. And of course, people who are coming up for to present for their positions, they may not be sharing certain things or maybe focusing on certain things. And so I think this is something that's valuable information that we should hear beforehand before we end up ranking.
Thank you, Ruth. Kathy.
Yes, I would like to also hear the dean's rankings ahead of time. I think it's valuable information. We don't have to agree, but I think it's just added information that we need. Thank you.
Hey, is there anyone who takes the other side? Anyone who thinks that we should not hear from, oh, Anna?
Yes. I don't think that I would like to see the rankings beforehand. This is supposed to be a faculty process, and I do feel like seeing the rankings ahead of time could influence the way that we vote. I know it did for me last year. I'm just being honest. And so I wanted to put it out there that I think we should do it with our faculty eyes only, and then we can see their rankings after the fact.
Thank you, Anna. Anyone else? Okay, would you like to vote on this? If so, we need to have a motion.
I motion to have a vote.
Okay, so we're going to vote on, the motion is that we're going to vote on, how do you want to put this one? That we
Either we have it ahead of time or not. I
So
mean,
let's
we vote to see the dean's, I guess, ranking or not. We either agree with it or not.
Well, we have to
Right,
see it. So the question is, when do we see it? Do we see it before we rank, or do we see it, excuse me, after we rank?
After.
All right, so there's a motion on the floor. Is there then the motion on the floor is that we see the dean's rankings after we rank. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Chris. All right, I'll do a roll call vote.
Wait, we can have discussion, right?
Yes, that's all right. Discussion.
Briefly, I thought it was criteria. Like, is it just pure ranking? If it's pure ranking, that's not very valuable to me. I would want an understanding as to why.
It's phrased as input from the deans. Often it's just their list of how they rank the positions.
So I think we need to clarify that. If it's just the ranking, we need to know exactly what we're voting on. Is it just the ranking, or is it going to be like a document with a 2-sentence write-up of why or something?
Right, we need more.
Usually know why. It's just a list. And unless the VP
well,
chooses to speak, we've never, in my experience, we've never been given reasons.
Okay, so
Yes,
just the
we
ranking.
have.
All right, that's different.
We have, Kathy, when the EVP has offered that, right? But it's never been written as 2-sentence explanations.
Well, we can ask for something like that. I don't think it's very valuable just to get a ranking without any context. I think it would be, obviously they can't present to us or anything like that. That's not what should be done at the table. But I think it would be valuable to get some input.
Okay, thank you, Ruth. Jen.
Well, I think it's very valuable to have the input. Having it after we rank means that it cannot have any impact on us at all. So I don't really know if it's going to be useful if we don't have it until after we've already made decisions. And I think Kathy kind of said this, but in the past, I definitely have experienced having some insights provided by what the deans share with us. And I think it's hard for individual senators from our divisions to have certain perspectives on the campus-wide needs about programs that, you know, we've heard a lot about program extinction, and I would love to have that input, and we'll try to, we should all come with our own rankings ahead of time, I think, but yeah.
Thank you, Jen. Trisha, and then Kathy.
More of a question. So if the dean's rankings are presented to the Senate ahead of time, it would be, I'm just worrying about the timing, you know, so it would be, you would maybe tell us the rankings or show us the rankings during the meeting, or we get it in the agenda ahead of time?
Usually
And-
it's at the
Okay.
meeting.
At the meeting. And then after that's given, would people have time to go? Because I know, I don't remember us doing it before last time, but I could be wrong. I just don't remember. But would there be time then for people to say things like, oh, that's weird. You know, I rank this position, you know, #1, but the dean's ranked it really low. I wonder why, you know, or vice versa. And so for us to reconsider, or there would be no time really to discuss and to re-rank our own personal rankings. How did that work? How was the timing on that? I don't want to panic
Melanie?
like last minute, yeah. Mhm.
Is there a
Melanie?
Kathy has an answer to that, probably.
Kathy? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we usually have had, when we've had the discussion or the information ahead of time, the VP has given us a brief summary of why they have ranked things the way they have. So we do learn enough to decide if we think we want to change, and we have time to change our initial ranking. And we don't usually discuss. The last couple of years, we've not had a Senate-wide discussion on these positions, and we haven't allowed anyone to actually speak in favor or against any position. We come in with our vote, we listen to the dean's position and why, and then we put our rankings in. So that's how it's been for several years. In fact, for years, we've always had the vice president's input prior to ranking.
Okay, thank you, Kathy. And just to remind everybody that we have the reports that were submitted on the 20th, and then we also have the Senate presentations. You can find both of those resources in today's agenda if you want to go back as you're thinking about the ranking and look at a presentation again, so that you have plenty of information to start to make your list. Kathy, did you have another comment? And then I see Anna.
No, I took my hand down.
Okay, thank you. Anna?
Yeah, to answer Trisha's question, for me, I did have enough time, and it did actually affect, it wasn't like, I ranked something #1 and then I put it at number 20. Well, actually last year I did do that because the only explanation we got was the DSPS position was being funded from a different pool. And so that I chose not to use one of my top rankings because I knew that was going to get hired no matter what. But sometimes last time when the dean's list was shown to us, it did impact the way that I ordered my stuff. So I did make a few shifts, and I think that dilutes the faculty voice. So that's why I'm saying I don't think, unless it's something like the DSPS situation, which should just be a disclaimer that this position will be hired anyway because it's from this other pool. I don't think that having the rankings is a good idea if we want just the faculty voice and input. So that's, I guess, my response.
Thank you, Anna. Any other thoughts about this, or are you ready to vote?
I think we still need to clarify, right? So it's just going to be a list. That's what we're voting on, just a list. No, I think maybe Trisha called it insight or comments on it. Additional details. I need to know what I'm voting on is my point.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor.
Well, I think Maria's here. Will we get a little insight on their choices? That's, but I have also remember hearing it wasn't just numbers. It was like, here's here, this is what we had in mind.
Kim, I think Senate can decide that, right? We can ask for it. I don't think they would hesitate to provide it.
I see. Yes, got it now.
Okay, Jen.
I was just gonna call the question, but I guess what Ruth is saying is, yeah, we're voting for the dean's input, correct? And then I just assumed that meant the input that they want to provide to us, but if we need to clarify whether it's gonna be just a ranking or not, then maybe we need to do that.
I can make a friendly amendment to Juan's motion. If we have a motion to not hear the ranking before we vote. Is that correct, Juan? That's the motion on the table. So
That
if
is
you were to
correct.
add, I don't want to hear the ranking, a ranking that will include explanation as to why they make that ranking. So it's like trying to get I guess I thought it was a given that the ranking includes some rationale. So again, I wasn't on the last year. So that's how we could amend the current motion to take that friendly amendment of the dean's ranking that includes some explanation of why they ranked that way.
Juan, do you accept that as a friendly amendment?
Actually, and that's the reason why I was opposed of having that information, because I assumed that there was not only the ranking, the numbers, but also the rationale, some type of explanation of why they ranked the way they ranked. And so that's why I was opposed to it. Yes, I accept that amendment.
Perfect, okay. Kathy? Or is that
Okay,
left
so
out?
now I'm really confused because Juan's motion was to not hear the rankings. So we should either vote yes or no on that. If we vote no, then we would need to ask, or maybe we can ask Maria now. I mean, is the intent to give us some justification for the rankings or not?
I don't like being like
list-
a parliamentarian, but I think it's clear. Juan said, yeah, the motion I made is I don't want to hear the ranking with the rationale. So we can vote that
Until
down.
after.
Huh?
Until after we've done our rankings. So we'll hear it, but after we've done our rankings, right? Because we have to hear it, maybe.
No, we don't. It doesn't do
For the
much good
ranking.
afterwards.
No,
Okay,
we
yeah.
do have.
Okay, so
Oh,
we have a motion on the floor that has had a friendly amendment accepted. The motion is phrased as a negative, right? And so the motion that we will vote on is that we will see the dean's ranking after, and that we will include, which will include explanations about their rankings. So if you agree with that and you want to see their rankings after, you would vote yes. If you disagree with that, you want to see their rankings before, you would vote no.
And then we're done.
Then we're done.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, do a roll call vote on this. Sabrina?
I'm abstaining.
Okay. Ellen?
Yes.
Tara?
Yes.
Juan?
Yes.
Elizabeth?
Yes.
Jess?
Yes.
Okay, Anna?
Yes.
Okay, Brittany? Brittany?
Yes.
Okay. Dee?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Joy?
No.
Jen?
No.
Trisha?
No.
Kim?
No.
Ruth?
No.
Kathy?
no.
Ben,
No.
all right, so we have one abstention. We have 1, 2, 3, 9 yeses. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And we have 7 noes. So what we have decided is that we will see the dean's ranking, which will include brief explanations after we rank. Okay. All right. Thank you for that. So now this brings us to the next part of the agenda, which is the acronyms, the question about criteria for ranking, and then the Wopap method. So are there any questions about the acronyms and terminology?
Melanie, can I go ahead and share my screen so folks can see all
Please,
that?
that would be great. Thank you, Tara.
All right. So I will just kind of go over everything that Melanie just said and then segue into the Wopat method because I think they fit very well together. So each of us will be figuring out before we come to our next Senate meeting next week, how we in our division would rank the 24 positions. And so in doing so, you have a number of resources to help you to do this task. The first is the document that's attached to the agenda that's about the criteria for how we rank it. And you can see here it's based on the needs of the campus, the needs of the college, whether or not a department can continue on without the position. And I will be the first to acknowledge that we're in a hard spot because every single one of the positions we saw is really needed. But we have our criteria before us. Then you all do have the more lengthy, detailed descriptions of each of these positions, along with the justification and rationale for the asking of the positions. So we have seen this a few times on our agenda, and you'll note that there are hyperlinks here for every one of these. And so each one of the proposals covers these 8 questions, and I'd be happy to share that out with you. But here I picked one at random, the proposal from biology. You can see it goes through each of the 8 questions. It brings in data from Tableau, and it discusses points of how it is compatible with the criteria that we're looking for. So that's another resource for you all. And it's a lot, right? So everybody did a lot of hard work to put in these proposals. So be sure to review them as you're getting ready to rank. We also have as a resource in helping of you to figure out your own ranking, the questions that we have asked of our presenters that we didn't have time for during their presentations. And there have been a few senators have asked for clarification, and folks have come in and tried to address your questions. And I'll be monitoring this to make sure that if a question was asked and we haven't heard a response yet, that I give that gentle nudge so we get all of our bits of information. So we have that as a resource.
Tara, what's the deadline on that? I'm sorry to interrupt, but I know since it got extended. What's the deadline to ask a question?
Yeah, so I have to remind folks again that because we changed the meeting, we have a little bit of extra time, but I'm going to ask that we get all of our answers in by Tuesday of next week, if that makes sense. All right, other resources for you all. We have a folder that presenters dropped in their PowerPoint presentations. So you have all of those as well as a resource if you would like to relive it. Or you could go to our YouTube page and watch the videos from our last 2 Senate meetings where you can watch the presenters narrate those presentations. So you have all of that as well. Juan?
Are those up now, Tara?
Yeah,
Okay.
This is live. This
Okay.
is live, but I can send out an email to everybody just with the links to make it convenient. Okay.
Thank you.
And I'll do that too for the folder and the document with our questions as well.
And let me just jump in there and comment that that's already on the agenda and it's got the
I
links.
know, but I think the folder link isn't working correctly.
I think it's correct now.
Oh, okay. It wasn't earlier, but thank you.
Yeah.
Lastly, before we get into Wopap, another resource for you all is that as you're reading through the proposals, you may come across an acronym that you're like, I have no idea what that, alphabet soup means. So here you have a kind of list of all the various acronyms and definitions that would come up in those proposals. If, however, something comes up in those proposals that isn't covered in any of these resources, of course, just reach out and we'll do our best to make that clear. So those are all the resources that you have right now. And it's a lot to kind of slog through, but do your very best. And I have complete confidence that you will. And then what we'll be doing next at our next Senate meeting, which is a week from today, is we will be ranking all 24 of the proposals using what is called the Wopap Method. And this is also a resource for you. It kind of gives an overview of what the method is. It gives some of the terminology for it, but I'm going to go into that in a little bit more detail. Before I do, lastly, attached to our resources is a sample ballot so that you can, just like you would in a general election, you can kind of figure out ahead of time how you would rank those 24 positions. So let me go ahead and transition now to a little bit more detail on the Woepap method itself. And it is a ranking system that will help us to sort through those 24 proposals so that we can come up with our own list that we will then give to our superintendent president. You may wonder why it's called the Wopat Method. It is actually named after the man who created it, who was a math professor here at City College for a long time. As I go through this, you might say, wow, this seems very similar to how like sporting events go from playoff games to a World Series or what have you. And that might be because Ron Wopap was himself an athlete. And there I found this really fantastic photo of him. And you may not know this, but he actually was in the Olympic trials in 1979. So there you go. That's why perhaps this is a lot of sport related in terms of how ranking is done. So let me just quickly go through this. So I have to move pardon me, folks. I have to move you all. You can't see that you're in my way, but you were. All right, so for the Wopap method itself, we have 3 rounds, and the purpose of each round will sort through to give us a top 25% and a bottom 25%. And as I mentioned before, we have 24 positions in total. And what that will look like, because we have 24, and if you look at the resource guide on the Wopat method, that means that our initial round of rankings, we're going to rank them from a 1 to a 4. And this is what it will look like for each of those rounds. Now, 1s in this case is a high rank, and a 4 is a low rank. So in the very first round, because we have 24 of them, we will be assigning those 24 positions, each of us, as either a 1, a 2, a 3, or a 4. So if you want to rank a position the highest you possibly can, it's a top priority, then rank it a 1. If you want to give it a low position, the lowest position, then you're going to rank it a 4. And we'll do that for each of the rounds. So for round 1, we'll be ranking all 24, but after round 1, we'll only be ranking the middle 12, and I'll cover how and why that works. So you can see here on the table, because now we're under 22 positions, we'll only be ranking the remaining 12 positions as either a 1, 2, or a 3. But the same principle will apply, where a 1 is a high rank and a 3 is the lowest rank. By the time we get down to the 3rd, we'll be ranking the remaining middle 6 positions. So as we'll see here, the goal will be that in the first round, we're sorting out the top 25 and the bottom 25, and then the subsequent 2 rounds are runoffs to sort through the remaining middle positions. All right, so that's where we're headed. So here you're going to fill out your sample ballot ahead of time. And in that sample ballot, you're going to have 6 1s, 6 2s, 6 3s, and 6 4s. And your total should add up to 60. Okay, in your sample ballot, you'll note that it's 2 pages long, so keep scrolling and make sure that your tallies there really do add up to 60. If they don't, it means you accidentally gave out too many ones or not enough ones or what have you. So that's a double check to make sure that that you have filled it out correctly. Now, we will be ranking online, so we won't be doing this on paper. We instead will be doing what we've done for the last couple of years. We'll be using a Google form, and we'll be working on setting this up as much as we can ahead of time. But I will warn you now that for the second and third rounds, we're going to have to create these in real time. So that'll give you a chance to kind of figure out how you're going to be ranking in the second and third round. And it'll give us a chance to build the form itself. So you'll see here that you will sign in using your City College email address. Please, if you say I can't open it, it's probably because it's your Chrome is preset to go to a personal Gmail account. And rather than entering your name, you're going to be entering in your K number. And this does allow for it to be anonymous, but at the same time, it does allow for us to make sure that only senators are voting in this ranking process. Yes, Juan.
Yes, I have a question here. It says Academic Counseling Center position 1 and then position 2.
Right.
How do we know which one's which?
Okay, I'm going to cover that right now, actually.
Okay.
Okay, good question. All right, but it's coming up in like a couple of animations, so hold that thought. So you'll see here that you'll enter in your K number so that we can keep track of folks. You're not going to actually put in the K, and so that's there in the instructions as well. And then for each of the 24 positions, there's a drop-down menu for you to select, am I ranking it a 1, a 2, a 3, or a 4? And you'll have filled out that sample ballot ahead of time, so the first round will be pretty easy for you to sort through. So what that'll look like in that drop-down menu is you're just going to pick, how did I rank it on my sample ballot? Did I rank it a 1, a 2, a 3, or a 4? And again, the goal is to make sure that you really do have those 6 1s, those 6 2s, those 6 3s, and 6 4s, and that it does add up to 60. Now, to answer Juan's question, what do you do for a department that is requesting multiple positions? And so for academic counseling, they're asking for 2 positions. And what you would do is say, I want at least one of these positions to be my top priority. So rank position 1 with the higher rank. And then if you think maybe the second position, I don't see it as much of a priority. I really think they need 1 position, but maybe not 2. Then you would rank the second position at a lower rank, as say a 2 or 3 or a 4. But make sure you don't rank position 2 as a 1 and then position 1 as a 4. It helps us to be more consistent if we're doing it that way. For the position 1 gets the higher of the rank. So for academic counseling, they haven't really differentiated between these 2 positions. However, the art department and the School of Modern Languages, they have 2 very distinct positions. So you might very well, for the art department or the School of Modern Languages, rank both as a 1 or rank both as a 2 or what have you, because they're going to have very different criteria for their job search and their hiring. It's been very clearly articulated that they're different positions. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense, Juan. Yeah, okay, good.
It does, thank you.
Perfect. So you're going to go through this for all 24 on the first one, and then you're going to make sure that when you reach the end that you click the submit button. What will then happen, and this is just an example, you'll get a little message that pops up and says that your response has been recorded, and there will be a hyperlink there that says, do you want to, here's this if you want to edit your response. And we're going to ask that you keep this window open, because in case you made a mistake, we might say, hey, I'm going to pick on Juan because he was just asking a question. Your totals don't add up to 60, they add up to 65. So you've made a little error in selecting in your drop-down menus. And how will we know that? Well, we know that because we can pull into Excel all of the tallies of each individual response. So we'll be checking and making sure that folks have entered it correctly. And it's very easy to make a mistake. So that's why we have to just go through and check it. And likewise too, we'll be inserting flags to help us to make sure that we don't miss any mistakes. In person, we would probably have lots and lots of people with, maybe if it's me, a calculator, because I can't do math in my head, to make sure that all of these tallies are sorting out. But what we will do once everybody has entered in their rankings for that first round, this will be the results from the first round. We will have, and you can see here, we've sorted, by the numbers. So in this case, like the lower numbers actually indicate the higher ranking. So that would be our top 25%, which would be 6. Because 25% of 24 is 6. And then we would get a bottom 25%, right? And those two stay. Those are now, they are fixed in place. The second and third round is all about sorting now this middle part of the middle collection here of positions. So for the second round, because now we already know our top and we already know our bottom, now we got to sort through the middle. In the second round, now you're only going to be ranking a 1, 2, or a 3 because we have fewer positions here. But you're going to have 4 1s, 4 2s, and 4 3s, and your total should add up to 24. So what we will have done in this Google form, and this is why it'll take a little time, is we will have taken out of the form options that top 25 and the bottom 25 that we got from the first round. Otherwise, it'll look the same for you. And we will give folks a little bit of time to kind of figure that out, right? Because you gotta figure out your own ranking. But again, then we can pull it and figure out, okay, now from the second round, we have figured out our top 25%, because 25% of 12 is 3. So we'll have a top 3, and then we'll have a bottom, which again will be 3 positions, our bottom 25%. And those two then get fixed into place. And what leaves us in is that very middle part of our ranking sandwich, that middle ranking. And that takes us to the third round. And so now we're down to only needing 2 1s, 2 2s, and 2 3s. And your total should now be 12. And when we pull that up, now we finally have the rest of the middle section here with another top 25 and a bottom 25. But in this case, it happens to be all of it. And so at the end of the day, what we will be able to do is put all these together. And so here you can see those are our top from ranking 1. And then you see how we sorted it in ranking 2, and then the middle part of our ranking sandwich here for ranking 3. And this is last year's positions, if you're wondering how I got these names and titles. So again, it's just a sample. It's just meant to show us how we rank it. But this is what we're aiming for. This is what we're aiming to get, so that we can then pass on our ranking of the 24 positions on. And at that point, I will entertain any further questions that you all might have about this glorious ranking process.
Tara, thanks for that great presentation. A huge shout out to you. Thank you for that. Very nice. I do have some good news that is related to this, and that is that the final numbers are still being worked on, but we will be able to hire anywhere between 12 and 16 positions. So that is a lot. That, along with the 4 positions that were moved forward automatically, the unsuccessful searches, that gives us anywhere between 16 to 20 new faculty members, which is very significant. So yeah, that's another clap from Trisha. Yeah, I think that's good news. So I wanted to insert some good news there and thank Tara. Any questions? It was a great presentation. Can you upload this also? Let's find a way that we can upload your presentation, Tara, to the resources for the senators.
I just wanted to add one more thing too, that for new senators who haven't done this, and you might have your own method, but for me, the initial putting those numbers was great, but then we went to the second round. I'm like, oh no, now I've got to re-rank. So what I did the next time I did it, so what I'm going to do now today tomorrow, the next day when I'm reading over this, is I'm going to give all of those, you know, the ones, the twos, the threes, and the fours, but I'm also going to have a column on my spreadsheet where I rank them from 1 to 24. So that made it easier for me when I was having to re-rank stuff in the second and the third rounds to kind of prioritize faster. I don't know if anyone else did it that way, but that's just a little thing that I did. I thought I'd pass along.
Thank you, Tricia. All right. So, motion to adjourn. We need a motion to adjourn.
I motion to adjourn.
And
Tricia?
second,
Okay, and seconded by Kim. All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much. Thanks again, Tara, for that great presentation. Thank you to everyone who spoke today. Next time we are also on Zoom. And so Margarita and I will take care of changing our Zoom invite. Next time we're also going to be on Zoom because it's just going to be easier with the senators. And the time after that, we're back to a regular meeting, so it will be hybrid again. Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.